Welcome to Ziflow's Spring 2025 Product Release Webinar. I'm Eric, checking in from just outside of Boston, Massachusetts. Let's talk a little bit about the agenda and what we'll be talking about for the next 55 minutes today. We will introduce ourselves, your humble hosts. We also try to take our product themes, the features that we've delivered over these past 3 or so months, and bucket them into, pretty easily discernible sections. So we'll go through those in time. We will leave some time at the end for your questions to be answered, but once again, using Zoom's Q&A functionality, we could be answering those questions in real time. We'll leave you with some additional opportunities to get some more information and more ways to learn. And hopefully we'll bring this in for a landing before the top of the next hour. Let's go introduce ourselves, shall we? In the middle of your screen, this is me. I'm Erik Mansur. I'm head of product marketing, and I'm looking forward to my summer vacation, both playing golf up in Vermont and with my family on Cape Cod. To the left on this slide is my good friend Mike. Tell them who you are, where you're from, and what are you going to do this summer?
Hello, everyone. So I'm Mike Hrymak. If you've had a product demo in the past 3 years, there's a pretty good chance we've met. I work really closely with the sales, but also product and marketing team on just helping our customers get a good understanding of how Ziflow can help with their review and approval process. This summer, I am actually going to Helsinki, Finland, and Estonia for a friend's wedding. So never thought I'd end up in that part of the world on a summer trip, but I'm really excited for it. And I'm golfing at the #1 course in Estonia, Eric. You'll be happy to hear that.
I love it. To the right is my good friend John. John, tell him who you are, where you're from, and what are you doing for fun this summer?
Hi, everyone. John Stetic. I'm the Chief Product Officer here at Ziflow. Looking forward to sharing a few future items that we continue to work on here at Ziflow. I'm based in Toronto, Canada. And for this summer, actually in a couple of weeks, we are heading over to the Azores. So going to get a little sense of mid-Atlantic adventures and some canyoning and some sailing with my daughter and wife. So it should be a fun time.
Let's jump into our first theme, which is checklists, your gateway to review AI. If you attended our winter 2025 product release webinar, you saw a sneak preview of checklists when it's still very much in the conceptual stages. Well, today we are excited to announce that checklists are going to be in private preview. Now, we built checklists with a few core tenets in mind. And I say built, it's private preview. We have built and are continuing to build those checklist functionality. For example, the ability to standardize review processes. There's ultimately two different types of feedback. There's subjective feedback and objective feedback. And by employing checklists, you'll be able to ensure consistency. I want objective feedback from select people, and you will be avoiding missteps across various team members. We believe checklists are designed to streamline collaboration. So you can assign tailored checklists by stage, track their progress, and document that accountability. Who checked what and when? You'll be able to see that using our activity logs. And really, that's a great segue to the third tenet, which is compliance and transparency. And in the future, you'll be able to block decision-making for incomplete checklists, currently log reviewer actions, and soon export reports for much more thorough documentation of who checked what and when. Mike, it's in private preview. It exists within the platform. Let's show a demo of what we've got so far.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is going to surface inside of the proof viewer. And, one interesting thing about the checklist, I've been showing this for a couple weeks to different people that I've met, either current or future customers. And I always ask them, do you have a checklist somewhere? Is there a system in place? Do you have an Excel or Google Docs somewhere that says these are the items we need to look at? And there are some who do. A lot of packaging clients do, compliance teams do. It's either in the brief or in the form there. But there's been a ton of people saying, no, we don't, but we know we should. And so this is a really exciting opportunity for people like that out there to bring these kind of standardized checklists of, what they need to look at in a proof into the platform you're already using today. And so right now we're looking at a proof. I'm in the proof viewer. I'm ready to make my decision, start commenting. But off to the left, I've also got this list of items that I know I need to review. When I expand that list, I'm going to see the name of the checklist. I can also expand the description to see what, I actually am looking at here. And then down below, I've got all of the items that I know I need to start checking on this proof. And as you mentioned, there's two different kinds of checks. There's either this pass-fail option or the standard checkbox. So pass-fail, that's for things that are more yes or no, black or white. Did the QR codes pass? Did all of the claims that we made in here, were they substantiated? So you can use the pass-fail option for that and include descriptions within those checklist items. Alternatively, those standard checkboxes are more, yes, I checked this, yes, I reviewed this, items that I know I just need to tick the box to get to the point of approving. And so as we start providing these answers, we'll see the list up top start to grow. As colleagues are in here with me as well, I'll see this kind of pop up and build towards that completion of the bar there to then make my decision or add comments as well.
So you've got a status bar to let you know what has been addressed and how many checks have been addressed. I also see that there's a stage drop down at the top of that checklist, meaning you can have multiple checklists and then multiple checklists per stage. Is that accurate?
That's correct. So each stage of the review process can have their own checklist because the brand review team is probably going to have different things they're looking at than legal and compliance or production or anyone else. I'm a manager of this proof, and I'm also in multiple stages, so I can see both brand as well as what legal is going to be checking off. If I'm just a standard reviewer in the brand review stage, though, I'm only going to see the checkboxes that are relevant to me.
Interesting. So there's some level of almost security there where if you're on the legal team, you don't really need to see any of the checks that happen on the brand review team because you're basically a single reviewer within one particular stage. Very similar to the way private comments work.
Yeah, or maybe, you've got a client who you always want them to check and validate these 5 things because, again, all of this is captured in the activity log when they do check yes or no. You can provide a short list that's just specific to them, but they're not going to have to look and see what everyone else in the process went through to get this thing to that client to review.
Checklists, easily accessible from the proof viewer for enterprise customers, and you can very easily see the types of checks that are being made, the description of the checklist itself. This is the proof viewer experience, Mike. Let's show the teams who are attending this webinar what it looks like to build a checklist using Dashboard 2.0.
Yeah, I know a lot of these webinars are typically attended by admins and managers, people that are heavy users of Ziflow. So creating a checklist is going to be a very similar experience to what you've already experienced in creating workflow templates or managing other parts of the settings in here. So in my proofing settings, I've got a checklist section now. You can see I've already got a number of checklists that have been created, so I can click in and edit them at any point. Additionally, I can add new ones, and it's as simple as giving the checklist a name, dropping in a description of it, and then starting to add the items. So maybe I want to do the logo check first. And then within there, as I add that, I can choose if it's going to be pass, fail, or basic checkboxes. I can include the description. And you may have even noticed in the proof we were looking at a second ago, there were 2 different sections. So I can also add different sections here to help break this checklist out to be more specific.
So if you're an admin and you have any point created a workflow template using the admin screen in Dashboard 2.0 or even an email template, this fly out from the right looks intimately familiar to you, and as does the grid for all of your collected or previously created elements, and that past case workflow templates, in this case, in checklists, right?
Exactly. So you've created workflow templates, intake forms. It looks and feels very familiar.
So you had mentioned at the top of our discussion, Mike, that you have had the opportunity to sort of show this off to current and future customers, and they have said, hey, we may not necessarily have a series of checks now, but we kind of need to work on one in the future. And I would presume that pretty collaborative way to do that would be basically in Google Sheets. So create the names of your checks and your descriptions, and everybody collaborates on this together, and then Bob's your uncle, you've got a checklist. If I'm going to do it that way, to collaborate on creating a checklist, how would I get that? I mean, do I have to do that manually in Ziflow, or is there a more easy way to do this in bulk?
Yeah, I mean, you could see I've created like 10 or 15 different checklists. That's a lot of copying and pasting to do so. So what we've actually done, if I do have a checklist somewhere in an Excel or Google Drive sheet that I've created, we've gone back and forth. We've agreed on what needs to be said. I just copy and paste those 2 rows. So I've got the name and the description. And then in here, when I add that item, I paste it, and that's going to bring everything in for me. So it makes it really simple to get that kind of list we agreed on into the system. One tip just to mention on here, it does default to the most recent checkbox type that you created. So these are all going to be pass fail. So if you do know you want them all pass fail or basic checkboxes, just create kind of a dummy item first before you drop them in there.
And then just like that, you hit create, and you've essentially created your checklist.
We're good to go. Once I give it a name, would be good. Yeah.
That's pretty exciting. All right, so I've created a checklist, and frankly, I've got a bunch of checklists in here, and now I want to add a checklist to a proof during the creation process. How do I make sure there's a checklist attached to a stage or to a proof?
Yeah, so it's nothing really new to how you're creating proofs right now. I've got one queued up here. We've got a website that's going out for review. I could add in like my stakeholders the manual way, and then we've got a new setting on the stage settings for checklists. From here, I can drop in a list of checklists. I can add a couple if I want to and kind of merge 2 together if I need. But then at the same time, these are also all part of our workflow templates. So if I'm a manager in the workflow template library, I can add the checklist. And then when I go to drop one in, what we'll see is not only does it have all the right reviewers in the right stage at the right time, but it's also got individual checklists for all these different groups that we have going on through the process.
Very cool. So, and again, just you're a manager, so you could log in and see the proof viewer and you'd see all the checklists. But again, if you are a member of a particular stage and not a manager, you will really only see the checklists that are relevant to you as a member of that stage.
Yeah, very similar to how everything else works in Ziflow. So in terms of security and keeping proofs visible to the right people, it works the same functionally as everything else does.
I love it. Mike, as I should say, attendees, as you can see, this is a reality. This exists within Ziflow right now, and we are happy to say in private preview. For those of you who are on enterprise plans and who are on Dashboard 2.0, we would love it if you could jump online and kick the tires on checklists by joining our early access program. As Mike talked about, we are looking for a set of users on enterprise plans, Dashboard 2.0 users that do have specific and repeatable checks in their review process. So if you already have a set of criteria that you sort of have to handle offline before a reviewer can mark as approved, you're the perfect candidate. Start putting those checks into a Google Sheet and you will be able to pretty easily copy and paste them into Ziflow once you're added to our early access, our private preview period. Or if you can pretty easily codify a set of what you would consider anecdotal criteria, you can basically create a checklist on the fly. Let us know. Jump in, scan this QR code, or our good friend Nick on the ones and twos, he posted the link to that private preview access sign up in the chat. Go ahead and click on that and add yourself to our early access sign up sheet, and we can invite you to the private preview to have you take a look at checklists and utilize them for yourself. Now, like I said, private preview, this is a feature very much in progress. There is way more to follow. John, tell the audience what it is they can expect as checklists continues to evolve.
Well, what's exciting is what you can expect is the number of the questions that people have already been asking about checklists. So that's great to see. We had some great research sessions that we did with a set of customers as we were designing this up. And so the questions that people are asking is exactly the direction that we're going. Sort of starting from left to right in terms of what we're going to be working on next and then moving forward, this idea of connect comments directly to your check. So if I fail something, I want to explain why did I fail it? And then so you can put the comment in, do your markup as usual. So you'll have your comments pane, or you'll have your checklist pane on one side and then your comments pane on the other, and you'll be able to tie those two together. So that marrying between the checklist and the comments is critical. The next is also around blocking decisions. I think Miguel had asked about that, Miguel asked about some AI stuff, which we'll get to in a second, around being able to not allow someone to actually approve if they failed something. So being able to connect those two things together is definitely where we're going. Then the other piece is, how does this work in a multiplayer world? So as Mike demoed today, you can actually see if one of his colleagues made a check outside, it got updated right in Mike's view. Now, Mike could actually go override that. So the idea is that a check is completed on that stage, and any reviewer on that stage can actually go and make those changes if they have comment and above access. So the idea is like, if you're being able to give a response to a check, it's the same as like you're making a comment on it. In the future, where we're thinking about too is how do we have different people potentially being able to make different responses? Because maybe one person thinks that it passes, another person thinks that it should actually fail. So we're thinking through that a little bit more. So that's sort of the next initial stages of where we're going with checklists themselves. But what we're also excited about here, and then where we started off with, is checklists are really your gateway to Review AI. So for those of you who are newer on the webinar and haven't heard about Review AI, this is something that we're working on, and it's in the lab right now around how we can use AI to actually execute those checklists. So you all know today Ziflow does a great job of automating so much around your proofs, whether that's routing them and syncing them up with your PM tools. But where we're going now in the future is trying to help you automate more of your review process. So what does that really mean? Let's just take you through our quick guide and we'll talk about what that means. The first thing is actually automating some of your checklists. So a designer here uploads version 1, Review AI can then execute those checks. Something fails, so now the designer needs to go back in. Oh, I got to add a disclaimer. So they do version 2. That disclaimer now gets added. Review AI goes through and does those checks. So that's how we can apply AI specifically to checklists. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But then if you keep going on, something else that we're looking at in terms of automating more of the review process is change verification. So in this case, humans have made some comments. Hey, you're going to add a sun, make the logo larger. It wasn't necessarily something driven from a checklist, but it's comments that need to be addressed. So now the designer goes and addresses that in V3. The checklist can still run automatically to make sure that there were no regressions in certain areas. Then what it can also do is do a change verification between version 2 and version 3 to say, did a sun get added? Did the logo actually get larger? So being able to automate more of those change verifications, which can be a really time-consuming process when you're actually going from version to version, comparing things. So if we just move on to the next slide, I want to just talk specifically about checklists. We have this in early access, or we have obviously our checklist in our private preview, and then Review AI checklists we're also running that in early access. So let's dive into that specifically and see how checklists and Review AI actually will manifest themselves in the product. So where we're thinking is that a human can go in and you can do the checks yourself, or you can just ask AI to do it. So Review AI, you go hit that button up at the top, and then the AI is going to go through and actually start suggesting what it thinks, whether it should pass or fail. Now, what we've learned from our early access program is that the AI is pretty good at being able to get it right the first time, but not always. And sometimes it needs some guidance. So it's important to have a bit of a learning loop here. So the AI is going to suggest something, and then you can accept or reject those suggestions. And then as you accept and reject more suggestions, the AI gets smarter and allows you to then be able to automate more and more of that process. So it's been exciting to see how all these things come together. And that can take us on to the next piece, which is about how does everything come together? So checklists, manual checklists available now in private preview, and we're continuing to build and develop on that. We'll now see that we move into then this idea of Review AI suggestions. So what I just talked about, with the goal of getting to this final stage of autonomous Review AI. So this is a bit of a journey that we're on to be able to get to this final Review AI vision that we have for checklists. So very exciting. And I think the important piece to note here is that this isn't just checklists where it's like a quick little to-do list where you're like, check, 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 and it's just one checklist applied to the whole proof. This is a sophisticated way that allows you to better operationalize your entire review process, while also bringing AI to the forefront as to how you can automate a lot of the repetitive tasks in reviewing your proofs. So Review AI, lots of interest in it, which is fantastic in our early access program. More interest than we were expecting right out of the gate. And it's also now caused a lot of high volume. And so we're trying to work with a small set of customers right now as we continue to iterate and learn with the technology. So for those of you that signed up for the program, thank you very much. We really appreciate your interest. Stay tuned. We're going to be coming back to you more in the summer with more updates on the early access program. But we're making some good progress with an early set of initial customers that we've been working with. So we're excited to see where this goes, and we're excited to see how this can really transform the way you think about proofing and reviewing your content.
If the number of questions we've gathered in our Q&A functionality in Zoom are any indication, 20 plus at this point, checklists and Review AI are a very hotly anticipated pair of features, and we are so excited to close out this theme with some positivity. Available in private preview right now is checklists, and you can sign up for our early access program using that QR code or the link in chat. Let's move on to our next theme, which is your workflow, your rules. Kind of a cool little quippy little way to describe the updates we've made to Ziflow's Dashboard 2.0 over these past couple of months. One of those things we alluded to at the top of this webinar. I'm going on vacation soon. Mike is too, and so is John, going all the way to the Azores. At some point, I want to tell my creative team that I am unavailable to leave feedback on a particular proof. And the way to do that would be to set myself as out of office. Mike, let's jump back into the screen share and show what that actually looks like in Ziflow's Dashboard 2.0.
Yeah, Eric, I know you get sent a very high volume of proofs to review, so it will be very important that your team knows that you're probably not getting back to them. And so what you're able to do is go into your settings, click on your pretty face in the corner. Hopefully you've uploaded a profile picture to your profile. Halfway up, we've got this out of office section, and this is going to allow you to designate yourself as out of office. You can choose from when. So if I know I'm leaving on Friday, I'll start it then. I can even, leave it open-ended if I'm going backpacking through Europe and I don't know when I'm getting back. Alternatively, if I know I'm coming back on Monday, I'll just set it until then. So easy to get in there, and then that will let people know. And from there, when someone either adds you to a proof, or maybe they're looking at a particular proof that's out for review, they will see you listed as out of office from those designated dates. So Erik, colleague of mine, he is out of office until the 6th. So if I'm looking and wondering maybe why his feedback hasn't come in yet, I'll know it's because he's probably sitting on a beach in Cabo somewhere.
Erik spells his name wrong. Is there any other locations where I have been able to know that Erik is not in the office? Like, for example, if I tag him in a particular proof and I'm commenting and collaborating in real time, how do I know he's not going to back to me?
Pretty much anywhere Erik exists, Erik with a C exists within this system, you're going to know. So we've got some comments on this proof here. I can see Erik is out on this comment. And if I do go to mention him and say, hey, Erik, what's going on? I'll see that listed as well. So it stands out, hard to miss. And it's just really clear, hey, Erik's going to be out for a while. Maybe I need to tag Allie or someone else from the team to provide feedback.
Well, my hope is that Erik's editor doesn't have a little bit of hashtag hustle culture in him, and he is effectively logged out of his email and messaging apps so he can enjoy himself on vacation. Another way that Erik may not be getting notifications from Ziflow is if he accidentally added himself to our unsubscribe list from email notifications. It can happen. So, over these past few weeks, we've added the ability for Ziflow administrators to add their users back to the resubscribe list using the people screen. Mike, show us how that actually works.
Yeah, I do it usually once a year. I go through and purge myself from all the newsletters I don't open. Maybe something happened accidentally or maybe for other reasons as well. If one of your teammates do unsubscribe from emails, but hey, we need to get them proofing invites, that will be visible then for admins inside of the people tab. So there's our buddy Erik again. I can see, of course, he is out of office, but he's also unsubscribed from email communication. And so instead of having to send an email to Ziflow support and saying, hey, can you guys please reactivate him? I can just click in, I can hit that button in the top right, and I'm going to be able to resubscribe him to Ziflow emails going forward.
So it very quickly, at a glance on the people screen, you can not only see if someone is out of office, but really crucially, you can scroll through the list and see which of your contacts and users have accidentally or purposefully unsubscribed from notification emails.
Exactly. So easy to see, very visible. I mean, we want this out of office unsubscribe option to kind of stand out when you're looking at that people tab. So it's just front and center for you there. Then easy to add them back.
Our tables are very data focused. That is one of the hallmarks of Dashboard 2.0, and it's part of the reason why we've developed a feature called Export Data to CSV, Proof Data Export. It is in public preview coming later on this month. So enterprise admins will be able to export a proof report that has additional details about stages, reviewers, comments and replies, just based on their existing view or the view that they create within Dashboard 2.0. And the key here is the ability to take data out and provide further analysis. This is a comma-separated values file. You could use Excel to do this or Google Sheets to do this. But the goal here is outcome-based. I want to use this information, I want to use this data to analyze turnaround times. How's my projects performing? My reviewer efficiency? You can gather all that data in a pretty easy to use format, something that many people are familiar with through the use of a CSV file. But crucially, it doesn't necessarily have to be deep data analysis. When you're downloading a set of comments and replies, for example, you can copy all of those comments and replies and paste that into Claude or ChatGPT and ask it, hey, what's the broadest sentiment here? I've got 50, 60 replies on this proof. Tell me what the key bullet points, the key areas of improvement that we need to make, and the AI will analyze all that data and tell you exactly what your priorities should be. All of that stuff will be available in public preview coming in June with the ability to export data. But I like data, but I don't love data. My good friend John Stetic loves it, and we've got ways for you to be able to make great use of this information using a proof data reporting template coming soon to our Help Center. John.
Yeah, so what we found after we did a nice demo when we were talking about CSV exports in our last webinar and when it was in private preview, I showed an example of what you could do with this data in a BI tool. Now, a lot of feedback that we got was, hey, this is really great, but we don't have a BI tool where, we're moving fast, we work in Google Sheets or Excel. Is there a way that we can use this data in Sheets and Excel? And for sure there is. There is now more data that you have access to. And sometimes it takes a little bit of a knowledge as to how do I connect all this data to be able to answer the questions that I have. For example, I want to know, who made this comment across what stage and what was the name of the proof and when was it created, and connecting all of those things together. So what we've done here with this proof data reporting template is to be able to allow you to easily download or clone this template if it's a Google Sheet. Then when you download your CSV files, it's just very simple to add that into this template, and then all the data will sort of come together and give you a great starting point for some basic analytics. So it can pull you more details in place, but more importantly, for those of you who want to go a little bit further, it's a great starting point for you to start answer some questions yourself, which means now you can start to build up and customize more of the pieces in this template. This template really, like I said, it's meant to be a starting point for you to think about some of the other questions you might want to answer. For example, how long does it take to get to a decision on versions for different types of projects? This view here is because we export the folder information within the CSV export, you can actually group proofs and what's the average decision time for different types of proofs in different folders. Or maybe you have custom properties set on those and so you can group it by that. Or are we getting better at getting things right the first time? How are we trending in the number of versions it takes us to get to an approved proof? And is that changing? And do we want to make that more efficient over time? Or even thinking about how your reviewers are performing. In this case here, we can see a chart where it shows how long they take to make decisions. We can see this reviewer at the bottom, they take a really long time to make the decisions. But the pink bar is actually showing from the time the stage started to the time they actually opened the proof. What was their average time there versus from when they opened the proof to when they actually made a decision. So we can see this user just takes a long time typically to actually get to the proof, but they're really quick at making decisions. And so is there something that you could do to make sure they're a little bit more aware they need to be reviewing these things or make it easier for them to be able to engage with that proof? So these are just some samples of some things that we believe could be helpful for people to actually be able to answer.
A lot of great updates for Ziflow's Dashboard 2.0 from these past few months, and more to follow soon. CSV Export available for enterprise admins coming later on this month. Here's a few more, in fact. We've made some changes to the proof details flyout based on the click data that we have accrued, so now it's even easier to copy the public link to a proof with just a single click. We've also moved the Move Proof and Copy Proof ID to the little three-dot context menu. We've also improved dashboard filtering, so you can now search within single list, multi-list, checkbox, and radio button custom property types, and added some type ahead results to make it easier to sort of build filters on the fly, specifically when you've got some custom properties in place. Like I said, Dashboard 2.0, pretty amazing. A lot of good stuff on the way, and we cannot wait to share more as we do our next webinar later on this year. Let's jump to our next theme, which is proofing on your terms. Again, our sort of bucketed term, our bucketed theme for the work that we have done on Ziflow's Proof Viewer. Love Proof Viewer. I love talking about Proof Viewer with all of my friends and colleagues, but sometimes there's feedback that comes into a particular proof that I want to keep a little bit more discreet. I only want to talk to Mike about it and not necessarily tell John what's going on. Hence, we've created private replies to public comments. Mike, show us how we can be a little bit more discreet as we are leaving replies to collaboration and comments that are happening within Proof Viewer itself.
Yeah, so to set the stage here, so just in this proof details, there's 3 stages that are going on right now. I'm in both the internal design and the production review stage. Public and private comments are turned on for both. And so when I'm reviewing this, and we could see, again, there's a pretty high volume of feedback on here so far, and I'm looking at the different comments that have been made. Let's say Dana's left this comment that, hey, let's use the photo of the finches instead of the turtles. And, my reply might be, hey, I like turtles, or maybe actually, our partner requires us to use the turtle. And then when we go to add that comment as a private comment, because I'm in 2 different stages, what it's going to do is ask me which stage I want to add that private comment to. And so instead of sharing it with both production and internal, I'll just choose internal and then add my reply. So you get a little bit more control over the feedback, again, with that goal of keeping, the conversations that don't need to be privy to everybody to just the specific stage of reviewers that you want it to be with.
Got it. So in this case, if Dana is a member of a particular stage, she's on the stage, she will see the private reply. But if she's not in the internal design stage, you can leave this note for only members of that stage to see it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a way, maybe if the client is communicating and their feedback's a bit vague and I think we should go in a certain direction or it's something we can't do, I can respond to them without that client or executive or anyone else being kind of privy to that feedback.
Dana's left a lot of feedback on this proof. So let's say if I am a designer and I only want to filter by just Dana's feedback, we've made some improvements to how you can sort by those reviewers and filter by those reviewers in our proof viewer comment filter.
Yeah, so I mean, within the proof viewer comment filter, I've always been able to go through and sort by reviewer. I can choose Dana. I will note this now is in alphabetical order, where it wasn't before. Additionally, though, I can just search and either search for a particular comment or just search by her name, and that's going to pull up her specific feedback there. Some slight things with just filtering. I think filtering could be really useful if it's done properly. We always recommend checking the filters out, particularly with labels or if you're using maybe the integration into the Creative Cloud. Just a little bit of a simpler way to get to the feedback you're looking for.
You know what's really useful? Gallery view and canvas view. Epic ways to be able to view campaigns worth of proofs, projects full of proofs, folders full of proofs using Ziflow's Proof Viewer. And just over these past few months, we've made some additional updates to Canvas View and Gallery View, not only remembering what your preferred view is for a particular folder, but also making it easier to switch between.
So inside this kind of gallery view right now, I'm in the gallery. I can see there's 5 different photos I need to review and go through. But these are photos. I might want to see them side by side on the same screen. And so in this case, I would flip over to the Canvas view. One, we've made it a lot clearer that, hey, the gallery and the canvas are up in the top left to switch, so I can jump over there. I can kind of see these all on the same screen then and go through and review. And the next time I go to this folder, whether it's a batch of photos or it's a batch of web banners that we've got running in here, it's going to actually remember that I was on the canvas view last time and take me right to this view instead of me having to click back to it.
Love it. Speaking of gallery view, we have improved the gallery view experience on mobile. So if you are accessing gallery view, perhaps via your iPhone or Android device, you will now find it easier to be able to return to the gallery view from having looked at a proof, including adding comments or decisions on that proof you're viewing in gallery view. One thing that I am terribly excited about is coming later on this month, support for transparent images. If you review PNGs, perhaps SVGs using Ziflow's Proof Viewer, as you know, we support 1,500 different file formats, you will be able to review images with transparent areas in selectable contexts. You can choose a white background, a black background, your default Proof Viewer experience, so that's light mode or dark mode, the checkerboard background, as you are probably familiar with, in Illustrator or InDesign or Photoshop, and then coming soon, a custom background color. So I want to see how this image that we will use across multiple contexts looks on red or on blue or on green. You'll be able to do that coming soon in Ziflow's Proof Viewer. We've got a ton more stuff we added just these past few months, including the ability to log out directly from Proof Viewer itself. If you got one of those IT teams that demands you log out of certain software when you're done using it, an admin can enable that setting and you can click to log out directly from Proof Viewer. And the ability to skip frames while your videos are playing. If you're playing a video in Proof Viewer, hold Shift, click the arrows, and you can skip ahead 15 frames if you're holding Shift, or just 1 frame at a time while the video is actively playing. Another cool update for a lot of those teams using Proof Viewer for video reviews. That's theme 3. Let's move on to theme number 4, which is integrations and automation. Ziflow plays well in the sandbox if we were a 4-year-old, but we're a lot older than that. So we want to be able to play nice with all of your project management tools, with your digital asset management platforms. And just these past few months, we've added some more capabilities for playing with Wrike and Trello and Google Drive by able to paste a URL or ID number directly into your proof creation screen. Mike, show them what that looks like.
Yeah, so if you've been here before, you've probably seen this similar setup for Asana or Monday or ClickUp. Basically, this allows me to connect a proof directly to the task that I want to update in, Jira or Wrike or Trello or the Google Drive file as well. A lot of times what we see is a proof, if you're using a project management tool, is going to be associated with a task or subtask in that tool. And so what you can do is go into the integration section, and you've always been able to kind of search for the card in this case, the right task. But we do find that sometimes it's a little easier to just paste the link to it in there directly. Maybe because you've got a couple cards with the same name, or you've got a really long list that might take a while to search, and there's the risk of me clicking the wrong one. Instead of doing that, I just grab the link of that particular task, I drop it in here, and then we'll know from now on this particular proof is going to be associated with this card over in Trello, or again, my task in Wrike or the file in Google Drive.
Love it. Ziflow Connect, an extremely powerful section of our software, the ability to create multiple outcome-based flows, and we've added a new Ziflow Connect action for one of those project management tools, Jira.
Yeah. Yeah, so in the Connect app right now, I've got a new proof, being the triggering point. And when that happens, I do have the option now to create a Jira subtask. So something to keep in mind, if we are using Jira, we don't just have to use like the webhook to create that subtask. I can do it using a Zybot directly. These iBots are really useful. These are kind of easy ways for me to put together the puzzle pieces to send updates to my project management tools. The newest one is Jira. If there's anything else you need to do, of course, there's always the webhook, but also a really long list of items. And if you have a particular Zybot in mind that doesn't exist that you would think is useful, again, we do always have that Ziflow ideas board, so ideas.ziflow.com, where you can go ahead and submit your own ideas for other Zybots, much like the new one we just added to create a Jira subtask.
Mike, you've done this before. You've shown this off to a bunch of people. What would be some of the reasons why somebody would create a Jira subtask via a flow?
There's a few. Sometimes it is we want to create a subtask for the proof for the parent task, just so it's more proofing specific subtasks than touching the big one. It could be maybe a comment was labeled a specific team, like an action the copy team needs to take, and so it creates a subtask. It could be, a deadline's been met. We need to create a subtask to let this know that it's past due now. There's a lot, kind of no answers wrong there, but the flexibility is there with Jira, as well as with a few other project management tools as well.
Very cool. We've got a couple of other updates we've made in the integrations and automations section or theme of our webinar. The first being, we are proud to announce that our Monday.com integration is now generally available. What that means is Ziflow's Proofs board, Proofs Gallery board view, the ability to create proofs inside Monday.com items is now available to all pro and enterprise users with that preview tag removed, now in GA. We've also made some updates to intake forms. We've heard your feedback. Those teams that work with a lot of external stakeholders or freelance talent that are using intake forms, perhaps they missed the checkbox that says create a new version to an existing proof. Now we've made a new radio button. So create a new proof or create a new version of an existing proof, making it very clear that those teams need to, or those team members need to add a new version to an existing proof and not accidentally create a new one. That's available today, and then coming later on this month, the ability for admins to configure forms to allow users to use a normal sign-in path. So no longer having to type in an email address, go to your email to get the code, and then come back to the intake form. You'll be able to use login with Google, SSO, username and password directly within the form itself. We talked to all the data nerds just a moment ago in our CSV exports section of the webinar. Let's talk to those data nerds one more time as we talk about updates to Ziflow's public API. Coming later on this month, you'll be able to get, see what I did there, capital GET, RESTful API humor, a proof's full activity log using our API, which includes details and timestamps on all host of comment actions, replies, reactions, labels, you name it. You'll be able to pull that from Ziflow's public API. And that is really the underpinning of support for digital communications, governance, and archiving platforms like Theta Lake. There's quite a few out there, but we're working with Theta Lake on building a sort of a connector there, and the ability to pull the activity log from the public API is very much the foundational element of that work. That's coming later on this summer, and we hope if you are using a different or perhaps a Theta Lake competitor, another DCGA platform, please reach out and let us know. We want to make sure that that functionality is got somewhat some kind of commonality in between. Mike, let's move on to our last theme, and I'm here to tell you we are a SaaS tool, software as a service, and that last S is often one of the bigger ones. It's service, and that's what we're really all about here at Ziflow. Our customer is very much the hero. So our fifth theme is training, enrichment, and ongoing support. And we made mention of this during the previous webinar back in this winter of this year, and now we are excited to announce that Ziflow Academy is now live. On-demand, video-based training available to all Ziflow users. If you've got a Ziflow login, go to academy.ziflow.com, 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 and you can get access to Ziflow Academy. Mike, why don't you go to that website address that I just said 3 times and show people what Ziflow Academy looks like?
It was academy.ziflow.com, correct? I think I'm at the right one. So when you go there,
Yes, it is. That's
when you go there, you'll log in. You can continue with your form. I'll continue with Ziflow, and that is going to take me to the Ziflow Academy. I take any chance I can get to kind of brag about our implementation team. It's a lot of former users, a lot of former project managers and designers, and they have taken their knowledge and put it into this system to make it really easy for new customers to get onboarded, but also for maybe you looking for a refresher to come in and learn some more about how you can use Ziflow to enhance your creative review and approval process. So once you're in, you can either browse all trainings, you can go straight to the Help Center or office hours, or you can get started with Ziflow Academy, which will launch you right into session 1, an introduction to Ziflow. Now, this is just session 1. Covers some topics about what is Ziflow. Hopefully you already know about that. It will then lead into session 2, admin settings and configuration, which are just 2 of many sessions we either already have or do have planned for the near future.
That's a crucial point, Mike. This is very much like an LMS, so there are a lot of buttons there going to lead you to the next session when you're done with the first one, but also links to relevant Help Center articles. So if you want to lean in and learn a little bit more on those session pages, again, available at academy.ziflow.com, you'll be able to give yourself as much of an upskill and self-training as necessary in order to make yourself as dangerous as possible in the use of our software. But we are not stopping there. Available today, right now, 15 to 20-minute sessions hosted by our implementation team, available on demand, video-based with those links to articles for your perusal. Coming soon, we are adding more links to Ziflow Academy throughout Ziflow, so it'll be much easier to access the Academy perhaps when you have a question, or if you have a new starter who's just arrived at Proof Viewer and they're like, how do I review a proof in here? We'll be able to link them directly to that Ziflow Academy session. And we're also developing more sessions. We've got a bunch more in the queue, including how to set up your integration with Asana, how to use Ziflow plus Adobe Creative Cloud, advanced security settings, you name it. We are adding more sessions on a quarterly basis, and we cannot wait for current and future customers to utilize Ziflow Academy, once again available at academy.ziflow.com. But that's not the only thing within this theme of training, enrichment, and ongoing support. Our Help Center is amazing. I've worked for a few software as a service companies, and I can tell you that nobody's got as well of a built-out wiki for their software than Ziflow does. But we always want to make it better. We encourage you to pull out your mobile phone and scan this QR code. We want to know, how can we improve Ziflow's Help Center? How easy is it to find the information you need? How helpful is the content that you see once you find it? Please take this 5-minute survey and help us help make Ziflow's Help Center even better. Fortunately, Mike, we have got some time to answer some of our attendees' questions here in our Spring 2025 product release webinar. The first question is from a guy named Christopher Powers, AEW champion Christopher the Crusher Powers, great name. On the out of office, is there a way to set who's covering for you on the proofs, like delegation? John, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So yes, that is exactly what we call it, as delegations. It is a future initiative that we are working on. And if that's something that you're interested in, please jump into our ideas.ziflow.com or ziflow.com/ideas and put a vote in there for that idea around out of office. It is something that we are looking at on the roadmap for hopefully later this year. But love to get more feedback and just continue to gauge the interest in it.
Very cool. So that's ideas.ziflow.com. That's our ideas board, where kind of democratic. We would love to hear your voice, comments, add votes, suggestions to the types of features you'd like to see coming soon. Chris, I hope that answers your question. Don't give me a body slam if I didn't. Another attendee asks, what tiers of Ziflow packages will be able to use checklists once they are released into public preview and beyond?
So we're starting off at the enterprise tier. So in private preview is enterprise only. And then as we start to get more feedback on those pieces and then starting to look at what tiers it will be available, all of the full functionality that we talked about today and where we're going, that is definitely enterprise. Some of it over time may make its way down to our pro plan as well. And so if you've got some thoughts and interest in that, please let us know. Love to hear the feedback on that.
To add to that, important to note, you do have to be on Dashboard 2.0 for the checklist as well. Hopefully, maybe this is the push to get you there.
Yeah, so for some of our longer term customers who are still on the older version, definitely we encourage you to start thinking about moving or complete your move, as I'm sure many of you have been thinking about moving for a while. Any new functionality that we build that requires some administration capabilities and edits in the actual dashboard, that functionality will only be available moving forward on version 2.0.
I had a question from an anonymous attendee. It would be great to have a direct link to a Canvas or gallery view to show external reviewers. I think we've gone over this a couple of times in different webinars, but not everybody can attend these every single quarter we do them. Mike, where do you get the direct link to a gallery view or Canvas view from within our dashboard?
Yeah, so when you are in the Ziflow dashboard, if I am going to be the one to review it, I can just right-click and review. That will take me directly there. And of course, I can copy it, which just note, defaulted back to the Canvas because that was the last one I used. Additionally, I can always go in here and share this and copy that link out to then pass along to my stakeholders.
Yeah, one other note too is that if you've got customized email templates and enterprise capability, there is a token where you can actually insert that link into the proof emails. And then we are also working on a feature that we talked about last time called proof groups, which will actually allow you to just more automatically have those links embedded right into your system. So that's another area that we are currently working on.
Couple of questions on integrations here. Anonymous attendee, sorry for the off-topic question. Don't apologize. But they've seen that Ziflow is now Monday.com's exclusive proofing tool or partner. That is correct. Does that mean Ziflow will discontinue support for improvements or to integrations with other project management tools? John, Mike, I think that's a resounding no.
Not at all. And as you can see, we're furthering our integrations with other platforms. As you'll notice, the Jira integration that we've just made some updates to, and in the past too, we've made it easier to cut and paste links between, to project tasks for Asana and all the other PM tools. So we continue to invest in all of our project integrations. It just happens that Monday chose us as to be part of their overall package. As well, the Monday integration platform allows us to create a much more embedded experience. So we are talking with other PM vendors, and as they continue to expand their integration capabilities, our plan is to be able to integrate with more of them. So if you're on Asana or ClickUp or any of the other tools and you've got interest in having deeper integrations, talk to your other PM reps, if you will, and let them know that you're also interested in that. We're happy to be able to leverage whatever integration capabilities that they actually provide. It's just Monday happens to have a lot of integration capabilities that allows us to create a great integrated experience.
We got people who are pretty excited about the out-of-office capabilities. Had a question come in, anonymous asker, the OOO and email is for our team only or also for external people without an account? I think it's really based on your access to the dashboard or even in Proof Viewer to see those icons.
Yeah, exactly. You need to be a user to be able to tell Ziflow that you're actually out of office. Whereas if you're a guest, you don't have all the permissions. You're not sort of a full user. So there's no place where you would enter that you're out of office. We do have light user options. So for those of you who want to be able to give users access to sort of be full users, but not actually create proofs, we do have a light user option that would give them the ability to do that. So if you work with certain clients or external stakeholders that are pretty active and maybe in the system very frequently, having them set as light users could be an option for you too. So encouraged to reach out to your customer success manager or reach out to the team at Ziflow here and explain that more to you.
Last question here. People are stoked about out of office and stoked about integrations. That's really the theme here. Is there a way to sync out of office information via an integration with a tool like Asana? So for example, when a user sets their out of office status in Asana, could this be reflected in Ziflow? Honestly, I set my out of office in a whole host of other places, Slack and otherwise. This is me interjecting. So is that potentially an ideas.ziflow.com thing, John?
Yes, and the one thing that we are thinking about as to how do we extend out of office is tying it into your calendaring system. Because we all manage our calendar and that's sort of the central place. That's the source of truth for what your schedule should be. It's unlikely that we connect it into other PM tools because then we'd have to sort of connect to every single PM tool and each one does it a little bit differently. Whereas being able to connect to your generalized calendar is the way to do it. And you can connect Slack and Asana to your calendars as well, depending on the calendaring systems you're using. So we feel like that's a better place to actually connect it. But please do drop a note in the ideas board if that's something that's interesting to you. And also all of these questions that are being asked, that all gets piped into our customer feedback section anyways, which is the same place all those ideas go to as well.
I do product marketing for a living, capital P product, capital M marketing. So I would be remiss if I didn't include a call to action for this webinar. So I would encourage you all to seek more information if you're leaned into the content we've delivered today. We've got our Ziflow support portal and our help center where you can find right now our spring 2025 webinar recap article with links to a lot of the existing help center articles and release notes for the features that we've talked about and discussed during today's webinar. Check out our YouTube channel. You're going to find a ton of amazing content, including the first episode of a little thought leadership series called Proof It. You'll find some very in-depth conversations with creative operations folks and marketing and creative team leaders via our various vodcasts in the Flow and Ziflow stories. Also, email your CSM directly. We'd encourage you to do so, or at customer.success@ziflow.com, and you can schedule a time to meet with one at ziflow.com/schedule a call. And we would love if you could join another one of our email lists. That is for our In the Flow newsletter. When we are not presenting on our quarterly webinars, you'll be able to get monthly updates to what it is we've done in our product feature updates using our In the Flow webinar, in addition to a whole host of other very pointed and exciting information that's relevant to creative operations teams, marketing and creative teams, the whole host of others. So sign up at ziflow.com/blog. Our customer success team members, very accessible and easily findable every other Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, our customer office hours. You can sign up on our website to attend those fortnightly webinars where our customer success team members present various topics and answer your questions. And I spent 5+ minutes talking about this last way to learn. That is, of course, Ziflow Academy. Once again, if you got a Ziflow login, go to academy.ziflow.com, log in, experience the joy of onboarding, ongoing training, and enrichment. On behalf of my great friends, Mike Hrymak and John Stetic, we cannot thank you enough for attending Ziflow's Spring 2025 product release webinar. We are so excited to compile these features and present really forward-thinking sneak peeks of our product roadmap to you a couple of quarters a year. So we cannot wait to do this once again later on this year. Until then, I encourage you to have a sparkling day.